Before this video starts, I want to explain two things. One is why I haven't been uploading, and that's because, according to Vegas Pro and a bunch of Reddit users and everywhere online, if you have below the version 23 of Vegas Pro, it will not render unless you roll back your GPU to a certain update version, which is in the past. And it's because of some like codec issue, so that's why I haven't been uploading. And so I had to resort to my Vegas Movie Studio thing that I'm gonna be using from now on. It renders just fine there, but it just doesn't work on Vegas Pro for some reason. And then two, I'm sick and tired of the hate. Like seriously, even though some of the things like I have in me are personal, it's nothing to judge about. And it's okay to say, let's talk about this. It's okay to say that I'm zesty, and I know that's how I sound. That's just how I was born, and then puberty came in, and my vocal cords have changed, so now I sound different. But we shouldn't really be judging people over that. Okay, just please don't. Anyways, moving on to the video. Hello, everyone. I am Bella Jupiter. In this next part, which is part 3, we're going to be talking more about strategy. Now, what do you mean by that? I mean more the safe side and the risky side. Because I touched on this in part 1, where I'm like, hey, do you either want to play it safe or do you want to play it risky? And then I just, during the video, gave you a few cases. Obviously, some of them are outdated. Well, not really all of them are, but you get the idea. And that's where today I'm going to be going more in depth on what kind of battles you should be doing and how you can mix them. So like there's a balance in between them. So let's just start with the first thing. I'm gonna make a battle. For example, I'm gonna do this in 5-way. And I'm gonna turn fast mode off for content, of course. Nobody wants to run fast mode when you're doing content. That's just a strategy that draws in views, but we're gonna be doing clutch as well. Because part of mixing cases now is that most people will use clutch at the end of it. So here's where it gets tricky. How to do this. It's actually pretty easy. So sometimes you can start with a few 5% and then move on to safe cases. And it doesn't have to be categorized either. Feel free to look around the other cases like mana, for example, or even eco case, sorry. This is where I'm gonna have you experiment. Don't always look for the cases that are categorized, such as 50/50s, 5%. There's so many of them that are not categorized, and they should be looked at more, especially with the safe meter. So, how would you want to mix cases is what I've explained, but what cases to use? That is where, if anything isn't covered in this video, you're gonna have to do, like, research on your own in the game. Like, check the odds of cases. Look at the safe meter. See if it's worth it for you. And then keep in mind, new cases get added almost every week because of Antho, right? So here's where I'm gonna start with my battle. And for the first battle, in this example, we are gonna combine non-categorized cases for this. So we're gonna do a few tractors. Again, don't copy me. This is just my strategy of me going about things. But now, backup case is a good case for whatever you're doing. Whether you do it inverted or not really depends on you. But for the sake of the 9%, I would say inverted. But there are times when that doesn't work. Again, this game's about luck, so you'll have to figure that out yourself. Run a few tries of it and see. And then looking at safety case, this might also be good. And then we want to involve a risky case in. This is because I am doing a bunch of safe cases and we have to kind of balance it out, especially with clutch mode. So something like this, right, where you have decent odds of winning with the clutch mode activated. So I'm gonna run this battle, and then after that we're gonna talk more about certain cases you should use, and then yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna start the battle. I'm gonna mute my mic and we'll see what happens. Now, as you see in this battle so far, notice how the good pulls are there, and that's because we picked cases that have decent odds of good pulls. Such as backup, for instance. You can see there's a bunch of purples in the mix. And then we have Guardian at the end, which will balance which will balance the more safe cases so that you have decent odds of winning. Because realistically, you're not going to pull the 2%. Oh, the other almost did. And then we see who wins. It was not me. But you get the idea, where you have to balance out the safe cases and the risk cases and then see what you can do with clutch. You would only want to do cheap cases at the end of clutch if you're free case grinding, and that's because you don't want to have to try to make your way above 200 by doing like some 50-50 cases to get a little bit extra for the battle. Anyways, I'm gonna get my money back. Alright, so I'm recording the second part 9 hours later, because humans gotta do human things, but I didn't end up getting this myself. I had to spend Robux to be able to get this so I can show you guys what to do next. We were talking about mixing cases, the safe and the risky, and then just showing a bunch of examples of what that would look like. I want to go more in depth on that. As you know, the free limit for free cases is 200. And then from there, you have to work your way up to however high you can get before you go broke again. So, what I'm going to be showing you is going to be less than 200 or at exactly 200 or just a little above it. We're going to start with risky cases in the front and then safe cases at the end for this one. And we're going to turn inverted off for this, but clutch will remain on for the sake of the balance, okay? So we're going to start with a few 10%, broom. Now, something I do want to point out, broom and toolbox, they're not the same case. It's just that toolbox is safer because of the $5 pull, which is the lowest. So we're going to be adding more toolboxes than brooms. Although both are good for gem farming, I would prefer toolbox more because of the $5 thing if you're cheap. But other than that, just go with whatever you want. Just like this. And then now we're going to make the battle. And oh, and I do want to take this time to shout out someone named on Discord, Monirov. They have made a bunch of seeds like this, and they even have the risk level attached below them. And then we get to move on to our battle. So I want you to observe while the battle is going. Alright, so this is exactly how a battle should run. You naturally don't want to run inverted, but in the case of this case, since it's a 40%, there's 20% more to the green side, so that's why I did not do inverted there. And as you can see, I ended up winning thanks to the odds. And this is how you really want to balance your battles, even if no one pulls. But the safe cases near the end, before the 50-50, adds on to the balance. So that way you're still able to profit as much as you think you still can, okay? Now let's move on to the next piece. One thing you really don't want to do, you can do this in any format, but there are a few that I don't recommend at all, and that is 4v4 and 5v5. This is because of the reduced pay that you get. For 2v2v2, 2v2v2v2, and 3v3v3, they are good. The only difference is the more people, you are more likely to lose, but if you can handle that pretty well and cope through, you should do just fine. Now, one thing I would recommend if you're doing team battles is more the risky cases so that you have more chances of pulling good items more than just safe cases where you get more reduced pay. Now, for the rest of the video, we're going to be doing some of Monier's less than or near 200 seeds. I'm going to have my mic muted for most of the time while this plays through. There is this bug where if your seed has a different format than what you selected before, it'll not select it on this, but it'll still be selected here. So don't get confused. You just want to check when you're doing seeds to check what's highlighted in green. Now, moving on to the playthroughs. Alright, so that's the end of this video. yeah, that is the end of this video. At this point, I'm out of ideas. What should I teach you guys about next? Let me know in the comments. Bye bye.